time I hear you laugh, I get into trouble. Wicked, why you gotta be so wicked? And the moment that you caught my eyes, I'm in trouble. Forgive me for wanting, but I just can't think anymore. When I see you, I'm in trouble. So enchanted by you. Why you gotta be so cruel? No, you made my knees weak, my heart stopped a beat. I still want you. Forgive me for wanting, but I just can't think anymore. When I see you, I'm in trouble. So enchanted by you. Trouble. I don't wanna get in trouble. Trouble. I don't wanna get in trouble. 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 I don't wanna get in trouble. But every time I hear you laugh, I get into trouble. Wicked, why you gotta be so wicked? And the moment that you caught my eyes, I'm in trouble. Forgive me for wanting, but I just can't think anymore. When I see you, I'm in trouble. So enchanted by you. Why you gotta be so cruel? No, you made my knees weak, my heart stopped a beat. I still want you. Forgive me for wanting, but I just can't think anymore. When I see you, I'm in trouble. So enchanted by you. Trouble. I don't wanna get in trouble.
Is anyone here? What did you find?
You are listening to Supernatural Confessions.
Hello, guys. Hello. Oh, yes, it has been a long time coming, and we finally have an episode about one of my favorite cryptids. a real classic about dragons. Dragons finally it came up. It took us this long to get to that.
Yeah, it's been actually, there's a lot of like dragons are not something I would consider cryptids per se,
Hmm.
but I was very surprised when it came up with one of the topics. I thought, oh yeah, something really interesting we can go with. I mean,
Yes,
everyone growing up
I
as
would
a
I
kid,
would
I
argue
think
it is a
everyone
cryptid.
likes
It is a
dragons.
cryptid because people there are many cases where people do believe that they exist in the very classical sense of fire breathing monster, kaiju Godzilla, or new genuses of species, or spiritually they exist.
Yeah, today's going to be interesting because we're going to look into not only like whether or not they're real, some real life examples. Some people have said to have found dragons before. I have some of that lined up, and we have a lot of stuff to bring forward. I think especially dragons came in. Wasn't it because was it Game of Thrones or yeah, Game of Thrones kind of brought dragons back from the brink of extinction, to be honest, because I think not a lot
Well,
of
in the
people were talking about it.
pop culture media, I mean, the Hobbit movie wasn't very good. I mean, it was good, but wasn't Peter Jackson's Lord of the Ring good. So there you go.
All right, let's say hi to some people. I'll go Facebook. We have Carlos Cole. Hello. First person is Ying Bao Tio. We have Finn. Hi, welcome back. We have Wes, Ivan. Ivan, you finally got what you wanted. We have
Yeah.
we have finally stumbled upon a topic.
Yes.
And Elliston Adrian Chua, hello. And Ivan, you say I look a bit like KG from Wa Banana. KG is actually my rugby mate. We
Ah,
used to play together,
ah,
so I
yes.
believe I was actually in one of his videos before too. And on YouTube, what do we have? Bill,
On YouTube we have Orange Freak. We have
the clerk
Frankie. We have
says,
Angela Lim. Leclerc. The clerk says. Um, Apparently, I'm very formal today. Yes, I just came from not really. I came. It took me 90 minutes to get out of the city because of the F1. I went to my
"Oh
studio, which
yeah,
is this one, where I usually paint and do all my nerdy hobby stuff. And yeah, getting out of the city right now because of the F1 sucks real bad.
yeah." I mean, now with the F1, it's good because I mean tourism's coming back, but damn, road closures and stuff. That's a lot of stuff going on, man.
Okay, I've worked in Orchard area. I can tell
Hmm.
you for a fact, there's absolutely nothing for tourism around Orchard area. They only go to the F1. That's it. They don't really spend money.
I mean, they spend money on like
The
shops
only
and
people
stuff.
that make money from F1 are the bookies.
Are there even bookies for F1?
Yes.
Oh, for reals?
Yes.
I never knew that. I've actually never been to the F1 in Singapore, so I have no idea. And I just saw. I think I answered your question, Angela Lim, whether or not I played I mean, whether I played rugby. I do, and I play number 8. Again, I think a lot of people liked it last week, so I think we might make this a regular thing.
No, 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 no.
We'll
We'll do
and
it at the end. We'll do it at the end
yeah, we'll
because
save
we
it.
got dragons to talk about.
We'll save all the AMA stuff towards the end of the episode. So if you have questions, keep them until like maybe like the last 15 minutes, because if not, we'll lose your question really easy.
We will lose your question because we have the memory of a goldfish, and there's so many of you guys.
And a
So
lot of things to
yeah.
talk about. Damn.
Yeah. All right. First of all, general discussion dragons. What are
Mhm.
they? So, in the European context, they are 4 to 6 limbed, large reptilian creatures that some of them have the ability of flight, some of them do not. Some of them have the ability to breathe fire, some of them breathe acid, some also have been known to breathe cold, depending on what type of dragon and what mythology you stem from. I believe um, uh, several different European mythologies describe dragons differently. Some of them describe them as more crocodile than anything else. Some of them describe sea dragons. We will be talking about Eastern dragons as well, and also a few very interesting Middle Eastern dragons,
Mhm,
straight from the
mhm.
Bible. There you go. Um, But the general definition of a dragon is 4 to 6 limbs, uh, 4 legs, 2 wings, or just 4 legs, which I have real issues with
Yeah.
because in popular media, a lot of the dragons we see are described what you would call wyverns: two
Mhm.
legs, 2 wings, 4 limbs. That's what you call wyvern.
Yeah,
Wyverns.
I mean, it's funny because a lot of people think when they see dragons, they think, whatever you see on the screen now, that's basically what a dragon is, and nothing more, nothing less.
Hmm.
But there is some kind of taxonomical separation or speciation. If you're really going to look into it, if we're looking at it as a real thing, yeah, most wyverns have 4 limbs, like Bill said, a pair of wings, and the tip of the end is like a kind of like diamond shape, or like what you see here in this photo is basically a wyvern as well.
Yep. So a wyvern usually has a stinger on its tail. It doesn't really like they aren't described to be able to breathe fire. They're described as being beast like. They are not intelligent in any way, whereas a dragon most of the time is actually quite intelligent. Does not have a stinger because why would it need it?
Yeah. And I
And
mean, there's other stuff like drakes. Drakes are similar to. I mean, they are a type of dragon if you're looking into the mythology of it. The only difference is that they don't have wings instead of like 4 limbs, like wings and a set of legs. They basically have 4 legs, and apparently their scales are like as sharp as, I mean, are as tough as armor.
yep,
And
yep,
like
yep.
Bill was saying, serpents are more to describe like things like worms, like worm-like dragons or giant snakes.
Different mythology. Okay, so the annoying thing I find when I was researching about this was that the 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 taxidermy on it is very vague
Yeah.
because there's a lot of overlap with other large megafauna that are also cryptids. So, for example, right, we're going to talk drakes. Drakes are a, I believe, described as a subspecies of dragons that do not have the ability to fly, so have lost their wings and are
Mhm.
wholly terrestrial. Some drakes can breathe fire and have some sort of like breath ability. Some are described to not have these. That that is very confusing to me because some dragons are also described as having more than one pair of wings.
Mhm.
Some, like the Eastern Chinese dragons, do not have any wings at all, but still retain the ability of flight. And what's more, some dragons are described as being more magical, having more magical powers.
Yeah. So I mean, like I think that a lot of people get confused. I mean, it's all really semantics when it comes down to it. Like when people say lizards, you kind of get an idea of what a lizard is, and for dragons, for the most part, they are similar in some extenses, but they don't really have all of the same things between each of
Um,
them.
so the History Channel did do a fake documentary series about like
I
what it
remember
would be
watching that.
like. Yeah, about like what it would be like if we actually found a dragon and how it might work, which was very informative. What they described, the basic physiology of what a dragon would need to have if it were to exist is it would not be. It would be akin to a warm-blooded lizard, which is
Hmm.
kind of rare in
Well, no, I mean,
rare.
there's no such thing as a warm-blooded lizard.
I believe not
They're all cold.
not
They're all
specifically a
cold-blooded.
warm-blooded lizard, but I know there's a warm-blooded shark, the salmon shark. Um,
Yes.
but yes,
But yeah.
one of the big things about large lizards and large reptiles is that they need the sun to regulate temperature. The big thing about dragons is that they don't do that. They hang out in caves. They hang out in dark and cold places. They sometimes hang out in swamps. These are areas where generally lizards tend to stray away from because it is very difficult to regulate temperature, especially
Yeah.
for an airborne reptile that,
Hmm.
for whatever reason, may or may not be able to breathe fire.
I mean, it's the same reason why you don't really see many lizards in Antarctica or reptiles in general. You don't see many of them in Antarctica or tundras anywhere far north.
Yep.
You have the rare occasional ones, but most of the time they aren't there because they were naturally found there. But to answer Frankie's question, are dragons' main characteristics fire breathing, with wings that can fly, or all dragons without wings? I think we covered some of that.
Yes.
In terms of fire breathing ability, from what I researched, right, what I found, I don't think all of them can. I think you do have those that um, not necessarily breathe fire, but they have some kind of acidic nature or
Yep.
spit that
So
they can spit.
some of them breathe poison gas. Some of them
Yeah.
breathe like an acidic thing, like a acidic spit, kind of similar to what you would expect from like a spitting cobra.
Hmm.
Some are even described as even breathing other elementals like ice, like frost. Like
Oh yeah,
there's
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
That's true as well. Yeah, and it's something that I found really interesting is
The
actually
sea
that.
dragons specifically, they breathe steam, like hot steam,
mm,
which
Yeah,
is interesting.
something that I found interesting when I was doing research was when you look at it scientifically, what is it even possible for a big reptile like this to fly? And I think we don't need. I mean, okay, just to breathe fire because I think that's an interesting one. How it's possible to actually do it. I mean, we can't really we in terms of flying. I think that's easy because if you look back to our dinosaurs, dinosaurs are as close as living dragons as you can find them,
Yep.
like the pterodactyl. There's a lot of big flying reptiles that you could find last time. But the
Yep.
fire breathing part was really interesting because, if you know how oxygen works, even the body, you don't really expect, like, how does a creature produce the fire, right? So there
Mm,
is a hypothesis that if this were to be real, dragons may not be breathing oxygen the same way that, everybody else does.
yep.
What they would need is actually they would need something more flammable. So if you look at other gases that you can be found in nature, a lot of the time people believe that actually it might be hydrogen that is the main driving force. So the reason why they can breathe fire is, or where they get the hydrogen from as well, is from from the air around. But in the food that they eat, they don't digest. The stomach doesn't. They don't try to digest all the food that they have, so they let the bacteria in their gut kind of work it out. And what happens by that process is actually that there's hydrogen.
Oh,
And another hypothesis is also that dragons also tend to eat kind of like stones in a way, or they when they're trying to, how do you say, file their teeth or to work with their teeth.
mm,
So what might happen is actually they have the sulfur or certain kinds of stones that may be able to react with hydrogen enough so that when they breathe out hydrogen, actually what happens is there's a reaction that works with the stones in their teeth, and therefore you have fire.
yeah.
Yeah, it's really
So
interesting actually. We don't have any scientific proof, right? But it's a lot of hypotheses that a lot of people have been talking about if you look into that wormhole.
I mean, it's very like it is very neat stuff because it, like, technically speaking, yes, dragons could have existed. Like,
Hmm.
it is feasible to have a creature like this if certain like evolutionary factors required them to need these these adaptations. Um, what's more closely what is more closely usually related to dragons being real is basically medieval mythology, the artworks, the statues, the the um, the stories written in books from monks from ages gone by, of like brave kings or knights going out there and actually killing dragons. Um,
Yeah,
they can
there's
vary from size. There's quite a few theories out there saying that yes, dragons used to be a thing. They very much used to be a thing. They were more like a force of nature, but as humans as we do, um, start wanting to be the top dog. We have to eliminate the competition.
Yeah.
So
And
as hmm?
I think it's interesting. I think someone in the comments was mentioning Orange Freak, like how cultures from east to west both have all have dragons, and it's
Yeah,
really it's cool to know that actually dragons for the most part can be found in almost every continent. From I mean stories that people were telling. I think
yep,
the earliest few that you can find is really well, if you look into the Bible, there's Lebanon. There's a lot. There's even ancient post-classic ones like all the way back in Iran and Persia. You can even
yep,
find them in, yeah, actually every ancient civilization has
yep.
their own version
The
of what a dragon is.
Aboriginals had paintings of a dragon, basically a thunder lizard, which was essentially what later archaeologists found out was actually a real animal. There
Yeah,
used to be there used to be a like a supersized Komodo dragon about like 20 foot long or something like that in the Australian outback that would actively hunt people. And the Aboriginal people have been around for so long that this memory has been passed down for to generation in the dreamland, and they still remember it as a kind of like a cultural like memory from those scavenger days.
yeah. I mean, even if you believe in, I think depending on the culture, the only difference is really that um, dragons play a very significant role in both a religion and also philosophy of the people in that culture. So
Yep.
if you're a Christian or Catholic, I mean the dragon was basically the identification of the devil, right?
Yes.
But in Eastern culture, a lot of people believe that dragons are more, how do you say,
They're
they're
benevolent.
more, yeah, they're benevolent, they're guardian spirits around, and they take care of the land, very similar to how Native Americans believe like the gods take care of Mother Nature, right? So there are so many different types, and I believe there was a comment that I wanted to read out, but Bill, you go ahead
Yeah.
first.
So my personal belief is that dragons might have actually existed, although in a different form, because we do have a case with the Aboriginals of a very very large terrestrial lizard that
Yeah.
went unknown for a very long time to science until somebody managed to find its bones, like a fragments of its bones, and was able to piece together this megalania thing did exist with people, and very very likely it fed on people. So it's a cultural memory, it isn't just a made up story.
Yeah, and actually, the thing is that there, I think it was pretty recent. There are stories of people finding dragons, and I'll show you guys this one. This one's from China. People believe, okay, I don't know, we're not sure if this is a true photo, but this is one of the few
Ah,
photos.
yes, I've seen this. Yeah, yeah,
This is
yeah.
actually a video. I can't play it, but this is one of the screenshots that I could get out of the picture, and this is apparently what people said to have seen in China. Now, I think it's a bit weird because if you believe or if you know like Chinese dragons or what you see in temples and that kind of stuff, Eastern dragons are very different from Western dragons, and this
Yeah,
kind of looks like a Western dragon if you look at it.
yeah. So my theory is that there are different genuses of dragons. There are different categories, different families of dragons with specific adaptations to help them basically live
Where they are, yeah.
where they are. So if you look at the European kind of like geography to top up the top um, back in those days, where there were large forests and there was
Mhm.
a very very defined like treetop canopy
Yeah.
because of all the coniferous forests, right? So dragons in Europe needed very large wings to glide around and to skirt around those large forests to get to landing sites,
Mhm.
to get to their nests, to get through everywhere. Whereas the prevailing theory goes is that in China, and in Asia, there were large forests of bamboo because
Yeah.
yeah, and you can move through bamboo, but you need a certain body type if you're going to be a large creature to move through bamboo. So they lost all the external wings because that was
Yeah.
just gonna get in the way of like moving through that kind of environment.
Now pause that thought because we said I said there was another one that there's
Hmm.
another piece of evidence or another sighting apparently. This isn't actually too far from Singapore. This was actually found in Malaysia. Now I'm going to basically tell you the story, but I'll just put it there first. So the story is this was actually found in I believe it was Eastern Malaysia. What the story is, or what the farmers told us or said,
Oh,
was
oh,
actually
yeah.
that basically this dragon was there, and he noticed all his goddamn rabbits were going missing. And one day he went out and he saw this thing eating one of the dragons. I mean, eating one of the rabbits that he had. So what
Oh,
he did was he grabbed his gun and basically shot it a couple times. And yeah, so apparently it died, and that was the end of the story. But when I first saw this picture, I was like, no fucking way. I was like, that is too perfect a sample to like, there's no way it looks too amazing to be real, right? So what do you think?
I'm also of like I'd like to say I am very happy he mentioned that he pulled out a firearm and just shot a dragon. Just go like just get off my property. That's my rabbits. Because I'm a very in terms of aliens, I'm very much of a ET go home kind of guy. Um, but I would have to agree. I find it very odd that it just so happens that the sample size is there. It is also a large creature. It is a really large creature. I would
Yeah,
say that is a 3 to 4 meter long creature.
I mean it's
Usually, if you are trying to take down something like that when you're hunting, that's not gonna be like a. That's a pretty big rifle. That's a pretty big rifle.
yeah. So I mean, according to the farmer, he shot it like multiple times, and I was thinking, if this was really a dragon, it must have been a dumb dragon because how did it not just I don't know run away or fly, even though it doesn't
Why is
have
it eating
wings?
rabbits?
Yeah, why is it eating rabbits? It could be I don't know what do dragons eat, but there's so many other things you could eat, and
I mean, you can eat the
and
pandas. We don't eat pandas.
yeah, but so the point I was saying is like this is I'll just break it to you guys. This was apparently found out to be a hoax. Apparently, they were just trying to get hype and like just get viral. But it was a real. It caught my attention when I
Yeah,
first
yeah,
saw it
yeah.
a couple of years ago, and I thought, wow, if that was a dragon, that looks like a legit dragon. It looks super good. But as you can see, because it was found in Malaysia, this is your typical description of what dragons are in Asia and Southeast Asia.
Yep.
It's exactly what it is. I mean, I see a lot of people talking about in the comments about like Komodo dragons and stuff like that, but I will get to that. I'm gonna save all the legit and the real stuff towards the end.
Yep. Yep.
But
Yep.
yeah, there's so many there's so many descriptions of Eastern dragons. I mean, almost in every Asian country you can find a a sort of dragon. Like
Yep.
Japan has their dragons. Japan has a lot of sea dragons actually,
Yeah. Yeah.
and actually more than a lot of other places as well. And dragons can be found there. Again, they're in this kind of situation in Japan. I don't think they're benevolent per se.
Oh
I
no, they're
think
not the
because
benevolent. They so in terms of the Japanese sea dragons, they are. I don't even. It's weird. It's hard to say because I firmly believe that sea serpents and sea dragons are very closely related, and especially in early Japanese folklore, they almost make no distinction, and they have usually have very similar abilities and ways of controlling the weather, especially around the territories. And yeah, back in those days, pretty small boats. You get caught in a typhoon, you're not gonna come out of it. After
Hmm.
more often than not, you're not gonna come out of it.
Yeah.
So
And I think it's interesting because, I think was it after was it the tsunami in Japan?
yes,
Uh, I believe that they started finding a lot of stuff that was washing up on shore
yeah, yeah, yeah.
from the sea. And I remember what the
They
first one of the things they saw was an oarfish. If you don't know what an oarfish is, if you were to just see an oarfish and you had no idea, it kind of looks like a dragon. It has the same like
kind of,
a
yeah, yeah. It's very
slender, super
long.
long
It
body.
has a crest, which is usually
Yeah,
bright red,
yeah,
and it's
and
very, very silvery
yeah,
with
its
almost no
scales are
scales.
very reflective. So a lot of people think that maybe this is a dragon, but actually it's actually just an oarfish, right? And my point is that you see a lot of the ancient stories of dragons come from things that maybe were very real in our time now. It could have been a misidentification of what it is
Mm,
because people just believe like, oh, we don't know what that is. It could be a dragon. And but the thing is, even if you go hop over to Korea, over to from Japan,
yep,
the stories there are also really. I mean, the descriptions are very similar. Now, is that because it's already so ingrained in Asian society? I don't know, but the similarities are very striking,
yep,
especially in this area.
yep, yep,
With Korean dragons, they tend to live more in the sky, like very much like Chinese dragons.
yep. They're
Um,
mountainous.
yeah, and if you watch Mulan, Wushu, right? The dragon or Mushu.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
have the whole idea in China of like ancestral guardian dragons.
yeah. I mean, even in the case of Korean dragons and Chinese dragons, these dragons have the ability to sort of, I would say, shape. I mean, shapeshift is one thing, but they could also minimize or like grow smaller than what their normal sizes would be.
Mm,
So you can see here, like in
yep,
this picture, this is actually a drawing from way back when that, these people believe that these dragons were ancestral and would follow the family and on and on. And, you could just put them in your pocket, keep them up your sleeve and yeah, they would speak or they would speak not in English, but sort of what's it called? Like telepathy, right?
yeah.
They would
Like
have certain ways
it would be
to.
like your like in the Western sense, like how you have your angel and your devil side, and they kind of speak to you, and like they're your morals. This is a lot like that, where the ancestral dragon would be kind of questioning your morality a lot and guiding you to a certain path.
Yeah, it's more like a kind of an angel, if you believe, like a conscience is what else the word I was looking for. Yeah,
Yeah, I would say I would describe it as more of a conscience. Um, so so I so somebody did mention are wyverns related to dragons? I would say yes. If dragons were to be real, and I genuinely believe they are real, or something similar to a dragon existed at one point or another, it might not have been an actual fire breathing like kaiju creature, but we have a lot of lizards that have frills that can glide. Might have been mistaken identity. Might have been a formerly now extinct species of large gliding lizard. We do not know. Um,
so yeah, I mean, even if you were to hop over, I think what was it? Ivan? Yeah, Ivan said, "Why do the Asian dragon and Western dragons look totally different?" See, like again, I believe it might be a cultural thing because if you even look in Thailand, right? Thailand's very famous for a certain type of dragon. And that would be the Naga. For those who
yeah.
have been to Thailand, even in areas, I mean, just in Southeast Asia, they have the very similar I guess, body type and
Hmm.
look, right? They have the similar slender bodies. They have the ability to fly. Some people believe they have wings. Some people believe that they don't need wings. But,
Hmm.
you kind of get the gist. And this is even the only one that, like, if you go to Thailand, this is, to them, this is a god. It's a guardian to, Mother Nature as well. And a lot of people that believe that Nagas are still real. I believe I spoke about it in one of the very early episodes.
Yeah,
about
yeah, yeah.
the
You were saying like how
the
there were
Naga
like lights around
fireballs.
there, and I was like, that's tracer fire from like a
Yeah,
20 or 30 millimeter, like Bofus or something.
exactly. So if you go all the way back, you go all the way back to that episode, or just go Google Naga fireballs. This
Mhm.
is something that the towns they actually celebrate every year. So it's so ingrained in society or their culture that this is
Yeah, I mean,
something
to go back
legit.
to the wyvern question, right? I believe wyverns are a subset of dragons that evolved in a different way, almost like devolved um,
Hmm.
to something a bit more animalistic than what was described as a dragon through other external environmental factors. Like it could have been anything from seclusion from the wider population. They might have been like as with like a lot of like migratory birds, there is a very definite like limit to how long they can fly, and it takes a lot of calories to do so.
Hmm.
So it is very possible that because of changing land masses, because of changing environmental factors, a population of dragons was secluded on an island or on a continent, and there's no way for them to fly back to the mainland, and they just stayed there, and they went on a divergent evolutionary path where they developed a poison, like a poisonous stinger, because
Yeah,
they didn't need anything to really defend themselves.
yeah. I mean, even I just saw this. This is actually the Naga, but in Cambodia. So the only really interesting thing that I think is slightly different from the rest is that this dragon actually has multiple heads, many multiple heads, and I
Yeah.
think even in Thai, the Thai belief of a Naga, they do have that ability. So depending on where you go, like some of these dragons have these supernatural powers, and even if you were to go to other countries, you can find emblems and descriptions and pictures of Nagas or Naginis who have an upper body half of a human, but a serpent-like body.
Yeah, so that's really interesting that you brought up the multi-headed nagas.
Hmm.
In certain texts, the Hydra
Yeah,
from the Odyssey of Hercules is described as a dragon.
yeah, yep. I agree.
So that's a very weird definition of a dragon that early people decided to name what is formerly a Hydra a dragon.
Hmm. I
So
actually just saw this. I saw this really interesting comment. I
mm,
think it's Chana Bark says it bears some resemblance to a king cobra with its hood raised.
mm,
Another inspirational nugget. Yeah. So actually,
yeah,
not, since you mentioned it, I actually do believe that that is a very accurate description because the whole idea of a cobra actually is to not once its hood is out, you're not able to really see where its head is because it has the two like these little eyes at the side, so you're not really sure what you're looking at.
mm,
But the only thing is that why I am so hesitant to say that it's only snakes or something similar to what we can find now is the fact that almost every story has described a dragon as being really big.
yeah,
Like it's never like, oh, this small dragon, It's always a big, massive dragon.
yeah.
And to my recollection of at least for a long time, there hasn't been dragons that are that big. I mean, no snake has been that big. Your biggest snake is probably your anaconda, which is just long and really thick, but not the
So
size that
my
people are describing.
so again, I have an interesting theory on that based on the European dragons and like what we see in like early European artwork,
Hmm.
then going on to medieval artwork. I like it follows the rise of civilization. So, in the very beginning, in early human civilization, it could have been there was a dragon like species that could glide, that had frills, that early humans mistook as wings. There are
Hmm.
quite a number of lizards that do have, that can flatten out and can glide from treetop to treetop. It's not that strange to think that there might be a bigger version of that lizard running about.
Yeah.
Um, in Europe, maybe? Don't know. Might have been an invasive species. Do not know.
There's actually Ivan actually asked why are there dinosaur fossils found but not dragons? So actually that's a really interesting thing that you mentioned because I believe it was in the UK. Can't remember exactly where in the UK, but there is a story of there being remnants of a dinosaur fossil. There it is. It's several bones that were purported to be belonging to the Waiwol dragon. It's a type of dragon that we can find in the UK,
Yep.
or said was to be found there, outside of Waiwol Castle.
Hmm.
Now, fossils were actually supposed to be inside. Those scientists, what they did was they took that, they did some studies on it, and what it turned out to be actually was actually a it was actually a mammal.
A mammal.
So yeah, it's really interesting. But that was back in like the Pleistocene, which is like way long ago.
Yep.
And people believe that yeah, it could have just been any real animal that was just around last time
Yeah,
because
yeah, yeah.
they didn't really specify like what type of mammal. Now we don't really know if mammal or dragons are mammals because it's a bit hard to think that a mammal would be found in colder places. So we don't really know what is it a reptile? Is it actually
I
a
mean,
mammal?
if you think about it, right, like it would have to be a warm-blooded like creature, just because like it's the only way to regulate body heat in a temperate or cold environment.
Mm-hmm.
Like lizards do not do super well. Um, so back to my theory. Yes, it follows the Odyssey of the Dragon, and its depictions become smaller and smaller and smaller as civilization gets more advanced.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe this is a classic case of humans, as we do, pushing out large predators to the fringes, and basically hunting them for either for sport, for glory, for I'm the best in the tribe, that kind of thing, um, and also taking their resources, their food, their land, their everything. So it stands to reason that these large described as lizards might decrease in size, might
Yeah.
adapt differently, having to
Now I
survive in this world.
now
So it,
I just want to say that Frankie actually asked it can't be or said it can't be a mammal, it has scales, and then Angela Lim asks if it lays eggs, right? Now in our natural world now, we do have mammals who have scales.
hmm,
We have the armadillo. We have a lot of stuff that actually have scales. To some extent, they're not scales, but they're very similar to the description of what dragon-like scales are.
yep,
Now, when it also talk about laying eggs, some mammals also lay eggs. Like
yeah,
you have the
platypuses lay eggs.
platypus, you have these spiny anteaters,
Yep,
and there maybe dragons fall within this in between area where in taxonomy where we can't describe or we can't really describe what they are because we don't know if they're real or not.
hmm,
But I do think that I would subscribe to the side to say that I do believe that they are some sort of dinosaur, that they may have been a real thing. I
yeah,
do believe that they're more like dinosaurs than they are anything else that we know. And if based on the stories, it's a bit weird that there's so many stories across the world
yeah,
describing dragons, but we haven't, seen them.
yeah. I mean, I firmly believe that there was a creature that did inspire the dragons and looked like similar, but unfortunately, it's no longer with us.
Yeah.
Um, again, the when you go into medieval history, the last dragon when it was supposedly slain was about the size of a horse. So you think about it, right? These dragons that used to be large mythical proportions, hovering on darkening the skies in cities,
Hmm.
reduced to just like the size of a horse.
So I know you wanted to discuss the Middle Eastern dragon. So why don't you talk about that a bit?
Yeah, yeah. So there are mentions of the dragon in both the Quran and also the Torah. as well,
And Bible.
and Bible in those three different religious texts. And some of them describe the dragon as an analogy to Satan, um, but others describe the dragon as something else outside of God. Um, so what I find is very interesting is that usually the dragons are in those religious texts are something to be dealt with. They are not meant to be like an adversary. You're meant to make deals with them. So that
Hmm,
speaks
hmm.
to volumes of like they're intelligent, they can communicate with people, and also you really do not want to have to try and fight this thing. You just want to appease it and move on because it is more like a force of nature than anything else.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, to answer Angela's question, what were their diets like? I mean, most dragons were said to be uh, carnivores,
yep,
very similar to dragons and most reptiles, actually. But let's just do a thought experiment here.
yep.
If dragons were real, if they were still around, I would say that's actually pretty terrifying. As a, this is a ginormous flying creature that could land anywhere and could kill basically anything it touches. Let's just say it breathes fire as well.
Mm.
That would be terrifying.
The thing is, right? Um, that stands to question like conservation efforts, right? So
Hmm.
when we're conserving large, like land predators,
Yeah.
like the tigers,
Hmm.
yeah, they're gonna eat people, they're gonna hurt people, but should we not conserve them just because they
Oh
could?
no, I mean that's not what I meant. What I mean is like just the thought of this giant ass like reptile flying almost anywhere in the world it wanted
Hmm.
to. I think just the thought of that or having something like that is a bit creepy. It's just
Oh
actually
no, yeah,
scary.
yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I mean?
I mean, back in its full payday, I would believe like dragons would be definitely something that early humans would very much watch out for, and that is
Hmm.
why there are so many stories of them, like coming out. I mean,
And rampaging.
and rampaging around towns. RY said like mentioned that Saint George has been is the only one depicted as slaying a dragon. Yes, but the dragon he slew was only about the size of a horse, maybe a little bit bigger than that. We're talking about
Hmm.
like old dragons that, as humans do, we poison their environment, we take their food sources away, and basically they starve and die. They have to migrate away off to the fringes of the planet where they wouldn't usually be found.
Yeah. I mean,
So
even if you look at like
so
let's just
take
believe that.
comfort, like wait, so take comfort that like if we do actually find a dragon, a living dragon right here in the modern day, right, it's not going to be the same dragon we would think of in like at the height of like the mythology. It is probably going to be something that is very malnourished, very sickly, like
Hmm.
small, even like meek,
Yeah, I mean,
which
what
is
Ivan said on
kind of
Facebook
sad.
was, yeah, what Ivan said on Facebook is right. It's the same as if a dinosaur was
Hmm,
still like it still existed in our
yeah.
current modern day.
Hmm,
That would also be terrifying. Like, just imagine you had a T Rex running around, even a Velociraptor. Velociraptors aren't that big. They're relatively small,
yeah,
but
but
they're savage.
the thing about that thought experiment that I like to think about is that okay, what let's say if a T-Rex was around, right, in the modern context with all this external pressure from humans around, right,
Hmm.
would it really still be a T-Rex? Would it still have that same body type and form? I don't think so, because
Yeah, I mean,
if
yeah.
if a T-Rex was still around and like and was with us as we were evolving as a people and did not go extinct, it will be drastically different because we'd be corralling that thing, we'd be
Mhm.
conserving that thing, we'd be like basically putting a lot of evolutionary pressure on it to either size down
Yeah.
or develop into a completely new body plan.
Well, I mean, if you're looking at the like natural sciences, the reason why we don't have many megafauna, like what megafauna is in zoology, basically refers to super big animals,
Hmm.
like things bigger than, let's say, the giant sloth,
Yep.
or things like bigger than elephants, or bigger than rhinos, and all this kind of stuff. The reason why we don't have as many as we used to have, and that's because actually we on the Earth actually we're every or throughout the years, there's less and less oxygen in the atmosphere, and therefore, there's not the amount of oxygen that we have isn't allowed to sustain that kind of sizes that we
Yep.
need.
Yep.
So that's actually one of the reasons why we don't really have many megafauna. Now, if this was back way back when, and we still had the same amount of oxygen, yeah, you can expect a lot of really big, crazy animals. Like what was it, the dire wolves? Dire
Yeah, the
wolves are
dire wolves.
massive,
What?
massive.
Wait, dire wolves not a good example because dire wolves were actually in human history, in human
Yeah,
memory.
but like that was
Um,
like in the early like our hominids, like back in the ice age
oh
era.
no 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 no! It was early European kind of like not hominids, way after hominids. The dire wolves
Okay.
are actually a fairly recent extinction,
Yeah.
which is very sad. Which is very sad.
Yeah, but I mean, like even stuff like the giant sloth, which
Oh
was
yeah, the giant sloth definitely.
apparently
Definitely.
apparently the size of, I actually don't know. It's really just damn big. I think it was said to be as tall as a two-story building. Two-story building, the size of a bus, bigger than a bus, and it's just walking around eating vegetation. So
Mm.
you don't have many of those anymore because yeah, there you go.
Well,
And
again,
yeah,
it's a classic case of like human number one, uh, eat everything, poison the land, then
that's kind of,
the
well,
big
in this
thing go bye
situation,
bye.
it's kind of both, right? It's both extinction in one way, but it also could be the Earth, heating up, less oxygen, which not really many people can uh, fight. But yeah, that's actually true. Now, I did mention before that I wanted to speak on some things that are
Yep.
very dragon-like in real part of nature, or the real nature. And I
Yes.
just want to share because I think it's really interesting. It does have very similar characteristics that some people would say are very dragon-like. So this is actually a type of lizard. Um, if I'm not wrong, it's called a sun grazer. Yeah, sun grazers. So you can see like this is super dragon-like. If you look
Mm.
at the horns, you look at the scales on its back, and I think it's super interesting to just
Yep.
look at. And it's very similar to what people would describe. I think Drake's. Drake's
Yes.
had this very similar appearance.
Yep. 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 Yep.
China Barca knows exactly what this is. Very interesting. I like. Not many people actually know what this is. Yeah, and I think this is super cool.
Yeah.
I
I
think
mean,
early in the comments somebody said about horned lizards. Yeah, horned lizards are also super interesting, and I think just looking at that, it's this is basically what you're gonna get with a dragon if it was real life or like right now in modern times. But we also do have one that's not too far from Southeast Asia. Wait, I gotta ask, China, are you working in the Singapore Zoo? Do I know you?
yeah.
But yeah, okay. This is another one. This is called the Draco. Dracos are very common. You can actually find them in Singapore. This is as modern as you're gonna get with a dragon.
Mm.
This is actually a common gliding lizard, and
Oh
you
yeah.
can
There you go.
see
There you go. Yeah. Yeah.
they can fly, sort of. And I think it's just super interesting because it explains a lot of the stuff that you know you would you would expect from a dragon. It
Yes.
has the ability to fly, or let's say glide,
Mm.
and it has the scales. This one not as much scales, but still very scaly.
Yep.
And I think it's really interesting because depending on where you go, each of the scales have very slightly different explanation, or what's it called, patterns.
Yep. So
So
that's what I was saying about like oh like dragons maybe not like a kaiju but like many species of gliding lizards with frills,
yeah, I
with
agree.
membranes. So could have been mistaken for wings.
Yeah, I mean the
And,
Draco is something. This is as good
and
as
how
you're
big is a
gonna get with a
Draco?
South. I mean they're tiny. They're like at most not even a meter long. I think they're not that
Yeah,
big.
yeah, yeah. So they're part of the small ones, but not hard to imagine. Maybe there used to be like a bigger one, and then people were scared of it and just went like, "Oh, it's a dragon. I'll kill it."
Yeah. I mean, you just look at geckos, man. Every time I
Yeah.
see, like, everywhere I go, if I see a gecko, okay, I'm not a herpetologist. I don't necessarily have a particular inclination to reptiles.
Mm.
But if I see a lizard in my house, dude, I'd never kill them. I never kill lizards, man. Lizards are
I
so
hate
awesome.
lizards. I hate
Oh, for
lizards. I hate
reals?
geckos. I hate geckos.
What, bro? I always like. I have a special like a container that if I find a lizard in my house, I will catch it because I have cats. My cats will kill them. I will catch this lizard and I will
Good,
go
good,
release it,
good
dude.
cat.
Yeah. And I would, I mean, I would just always catch lizards and release them. I don't like them dying. I don't like people like spraying them. They do a lot for, actually a lot of things. But I've
No,
heard stories
here's
about my
what does a
friends.
lot. Spiders. Fucking love spiders. I
Yeah,
think they're
I
damn
also
cute.
love spiders. Spiders are great.
But like geckos, don't like them. They fucking freak me out.
Yeah, actually, KK Hing, there is a lizard that waddles on two legs.
Mm,
Well, doesn't really waddle. Actually, runs. You have what's it called? I think it's called the basilisk. Yeah, the basilisk actually have the ability to run on water. It's called the Jesus lizard, the
oh
Jesus
yeah,
Christ
yeah, yeah,
lizard.
yeah. Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
they run. Actually, it's not much of a science. They just run really fast and they have web feet. But
Yes.
also very interesting. If you were a human in like in the early days and you saw that, you'd be like, oh shit, that's
Magic
a
lizard.
water. That's a crazy dragon.
Yeah.
But
You're
yeah,
like, what the hell? Oh, that's a baby crazy dragon.
yeah, that was a super interesting episode, man. I like these topics where we can actually really blend science and or at least zoology with what we actually can see.
Um, Dragons are a very interesting choice. Are a very interesting subject because a, quite a large number of the population still believes that dragons are out there somewhere and they're just
Hmm.
hiding. Um, and I lean to that member of the population that like dragons are around, but just very, very, very diminished. Because as we always do as humans, that's what we do. That is what
Yeah,
we do.
I mean, I from just as a scientist, but also as a fan of dragons,
Hmm.
I really do wish dragons were around if they're really a real thing. Because I think it'd just be amazing to look at.
I
I
think
think they'd be so majestic to look at.
um I think they are, but just in very, very remote places.
Mm.
Very
Oh,
quickly, well, hold on. Ivan Go has asked, if dragons are myth, who actually began the myth or legends and design of dragons? Well,
yeah.
Ivan Go, you only need to look back at early human art. We humans are extremely creative and extremely imaginative. When we have
Yeah, I
nothing to
mean,
distract ourselves, our minds, our imaginations just go wild.
I
So
don't think that. I mean, even then, I get where Ivan's coming from. Like, what he's asking is like, how do people come up with these ideas? Yes, people are creative, but there must be some frame of reference, right? And I'm on the side of belief that dragons are real, or they were real at one point in
yeah,
time. So the stuff that you see can't just be like, oh, I plucked it out of the air or whatever the case. They must have been something that influenced this kind of description.
yep,
So yeah, I believe that it at some point in Earth's history must have been a real thing,
yes.
or it might have been a dinosaur that was still alive.
Again, like we've already established that like dragons are very would be closer related to dinosaurs than anything else because that's the only frame of reference we have for that kind of body plan and that kind of size. So it could be that dragons were a dinosaur species that kind of survived and were still
Yeah,
around.
I mean,
It could have
I
been like
forgot
one of the
to.
raptors. They just
I actually forgot to mention. I believe a lot of people were talking about the Komodo dragon.
oh yeah, the
That
Komodo
Komodo
dragon.
dragon
Yes.
is as good as a drake as you're gonna find now. Komodo dragons are huge. They have very similar characteristics. They don't really spit acid, but if you were to get bit
Their
by them, you
spit.
will die
Yeah, their
because
spit
their spit
is
has a lot of
poisonous.
bacteria. So that's if there's such a thing as a Komodo dragon now. Can you imagine, like years ago, before agriculture, before humans started making the world more modern, there must have been some crazy reptiles way back when. So yeah,
Yes.
I'm actually on the side of I'm not on the fence. I'm not on the fence today. I'm pretty sure dragons were real at
Yeah.
some point in time. We just
Yeah.
don't
Yeah. Yeah.
have much evidence of it yet. Well, they could have just been dinosaurs, you know?
No, I mean, it could, like, dragons definitely did exist at one point. I believe so. Could have been a dinosaur, could have been like a holdover, and
Mhm.
might not exist now, or might only be existing in, like, on the very fringes of
Of the
um,
world.
of the world, just hiding out and slowly declining.
Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah.
That's our episode on on dragons. I think a lot of people really wanted to see this, but before okay, I'm just gonna say it now. We do have, if you guys want, we can have an AMA. So send your questions into the comment boxes. But
Yep.
before we actually get into a the AMA, I do want to bring up something that we can talk about. Bill and I, and also our secret researcher,
Mr. H.
we, Mr. H, yes, we want to go into, or we're thinking of going into, what's it called? Conspiracies and stuff along those lines. So what I mean by conspiracies, like, I don't know, throw me one. We can go, I don't, you can go a lot of things. You can go like 9/11. You can go the Bilderbergs. You can go all sorts of weird
I
stuff.
want to go into eugenics.
Okay, eugenics or Nazi, what's it called? Nazi UFOs, all that sort of stuff. So if you guys want that,
We all know Nazi UFOs were a thing. It's a fact now.
okay, we will. Oh yeah, the Illuminati, for example. We can go into all of that on the fringe as well. And I think it's an area that we have early discussed that we might want to go into. So if if you guys want that, we'll put it in the poll. I'm just gonna put. Sorry, excuse me. I'm just gonna put conspiracies as a whole, and then we're gonna bring one up and surprise you guys next week. So if
Yep.
you guys want to see conspiracy, vote for conspiracies. Yeah, Knights Templar, a lot of stuff, the Holy Grail, all sorts of crazy stuff. But yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people are on board with that. So that'd be a Matrix world. Yeah, I think the Mandela effect. I was actually explaining to Bill what the Mandela effect was today because he doesn't know what it is. But yeah, we
I
can
don't
go
know
into
what it
that.
was.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff we can go into, and I think it kind of fits the bill of what we do here. Not
Yes.
necessarily supernatural, but it's kind of a thing that is not
I mean, we don't
natural.
do much supernatural here. We're more on, like, cryptids and, like, science and, the fringes of science, that kind of thing.
We do sometimes go into supernatural stuff, but there's also those options.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Does anyone have any questions, any AMAs tonight? If we want, you can ask them quick. If not, let's just wait out a bit. Yeah, if not, we can always catch you guys next week, and then we can go from there. It's quiet. I already answered one
Oh,
AMA
it was.
today, and that was the start of the show.
Yeah. You already started with the AMA in the beginning. I'm like, no. Talk about the dragons first, because it's a lot.
KK Hing asks, "Where's your studio?"
Huh? Where's my studio? Oh, sorry, that is private. Good sir.
It's in Singapore, right? I mean,
It's in
I've
Singapore.
been
It's in
there.
Singapore.
I know where it is. Unless you want to know how to do like all the D&D and the painting and stuff, then you can message Bill. Bill will actually give you that information.
Yes.
If you don't know what D&D is,
Yeah,
that's
Dungeons
Dungeons and
Dragons,
Dragons.
one of my favorite games. There you go.
Yeah, Bill actually went to his studio today to do some painting.
Yep.
Oh, KK Hing said he painted Warhammer before.
Oh, cool. I still play Warhammer and paint Warhammer now.
Yeah, you can actually meet up with Bill, and Bill will be able to do all this for you. Or, well, you can do it with him instead of he does it for you, because he'll charge you.
Yeah. Orange Freak says, what kind of studio is it? It is a I guess it's a painting studio. I 3D print here. I do all the painting stuff, and then yeah.
Oh, the clerk actually does it too. He uses an airbrush.
Yeah, I use an airbrush too. I've got like 2 airbrushes over here.
I guess a lot of people actually like this kind of stuff.
See, told you.
I mean, I've done it once.
I came back from work to work in the studio, and then now I'm here.
All right. Well, okay. Not many AMAs, so that's a good.
People are just more interested in my studio. It's like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, a lot of people want to go to Okay, Hank. Do Bill and Matt play board games? I think Bill, you do more than I do. Like you play more board games.
I
Like I
mean,
mean, like
yeah, I love
Warhammer,
board
D and
games.
D.
I love D&D. I love board games. I play Vampire the Masquerade. I play Call of Cthulhu. I play Pathfinder. Yeah, currently.
Yeah, I mean, I play more of the like the typical board games like Secret Hitler, Monopoly. I don't really play board games a lot, but it's one of those kind of
You
party
play
stuff.
Pandemic? Did you play Pandemic?
I did, yeah, yeah. I actually have played
Pandemic
Pandemic
during the
before.
pandemic? Yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I actually do, dude. I actually have played Pandemic. I've played the other one as well, the one that's in winter. I forgot what it's called.
Is my studio haunted? I actually feel that it is actually.
Yeah. To answer Ivan's question, is the back room real? Now, the back room, I think that would be an episode on its own, but only
We already
because I
did the back
believe,
rooms, right?
well, not really. We only briefly mentioned it.
Oh yeah, I mentioned it because I love talking about the back rooms. All the creepy stuff you can find there, all the weird stuff.
Yeah. So we can always talk. I mean, the back room. I think it might be its episode on its own. My only hesitation is because it comes from creepypasta, and a lot of the stuff that comes from creepypasta is just nonsense. So I am on that side that maybe not. It might be a parallel universe, a portal, stuff like that, which we can still discuss someday. But yeah, I don't really think it's a real thing.
Yeah.
All
So,
right.
why am I nonchalant? Why am I so cool about like having this place haunted? Like, well, honestly, because I'm so tired, and don't get the sense that this ghost actually like um wants to do anything, and it's just like if the ghost wants to be tired with me, I'm fine.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was an interesting episode. I think we did pretty. That was I really like dragons. I like this kind of topics. So hopefully, give us what you want, what you guys want to see next week. If you always remember that you guys can put in your own topics and options. Like if you want to see something, let us know. I think it was Ivan last week. He put what's it called? He put the Mandela effect. I think that's something we might actually go to next week. So
Oh
I'm
yeah,
gonna put that
Orange Freak
in for
said
the poll as
elves.
well.
Elves.
Elves, there you go. There's so many. So yeah, don't forget, we will vote on that. Also put in your own topics. And yeah, we will see you then.
They
Bill?
are. Yes, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Have a good night. I need to figure out how to get home with all
Oh
this
yeah.
crazy F1 stuff. I don't know if my buses are still like even like going through the city. Jeez.
All right.
So
Okay. I forgot my. Oh no, I got it. Yeah. Thank you for tuning in, you guys. It's always been nice. So again, find us on Discord. Find us on the Supernatural page. You can watch us maybe on Friday. Don't forget on the 21st of October. There's that. So
yes,
until next time, stay on the fringes. Bye,
Fringe.
guys.
What did you find?
You are listening to Supernatural Confessions.